Dude, Nathan, stop.
Ow.
Even Dave's telling you to stop.
Stop it.
Oh, that gets this. Okay, so really another one of these, to me, like extremely interesting, telling sort of feeds. Like way better than I could even sort of hope for. Like I couldn't script it better. Because, you know, it just shows the levels here. There are levels to this shit. And these, you know, they're just not on my level. And there is, you know, like I say, when you see something that you're not, that doesn't happen in other situations, that tells you something. Like that's what, I don't know what else you're like looking for, you know, other than the system to put out some sort of memo saying, you know, what Guy Williams claims to be true is true. Like, what do you think? Where do you think the proof is going to come from? What form do you think it's going to be in? Dude, stop being an annoying little brother.
That's fine. What he's doing is actually kind of funny.
Some cheese
What do you
or
guys want?
cheese and butter toast.
Toast. Thank you.
Vagina.
I hope you're having a wonderful day and share love with everyone you can. Sure. I hate this all we need is love cop out that everybody talks about. We need a lot more than love. You know, we need to address the problem before we can fix the problem. And as long as the problem keeps telling us we're not allowed to even talk about it, it's going to persist. And that's, you know, that's the truth. There's a truth in all of this that just gets avoided. Nate, you're having a banana and peanut butter. Yeah, but you're also having a banana and peanut butter. Nick, you're having a banana and peanut butter. No, you are. No.
I don't like bananas, Dad.
I know, I'm sorry, but they're a great
I'm not going to eat a banana.
They're a great source of protein or potassium, and then the peanut butter is the protein. So
You like bananas.
I'm going to give you the smallest one, and you can have that.
Yeah, dog.
We don't have tomatoes right now, so I'm giving you the smallest banana we have. I'm sorry. I'm giving you the rest of what you do want. You're going to have your toast, but
I don't want a banana.
I know, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm not going to eat it. I hate bananas.
You can eat it, and you don't hate bananas.
You're going to eat it.
And there's peanut butter, so it'll make it a lot better.
It doesn't make it better.
Well, it's good for you, so you need to eat it.
I eat a lot of good stuff.
Come on, eat it. I'm making you your breakfast. Why did you block my wife, Courtney? Courtney, is she one of those weirdo pedos? Usually that's why. Somebody usually gets blocked because they start doing pedo bullshit. Thoughts on Jim Brewer? I mean, they're gonna let us they have to let us have some guys. I don't know, did Jim Brewer like break the rules in a big way or something that I just haven't seen yet? You know, did something new happen, or are you just talking about in general? Because in general, yeah, he's a decently funny guy. I mean, I think Theo's pretty good. Theo Von's pretty good, but I don't know. I tend to think if we know about them, if they're being presented to us in any shape or form, then it's because it's wanted. And I just can't help but, apply my own personal experience to the equation. So to know that prior to Charlie Kirk, my feed, getting less than a thousand views was unheard of unless it was a fucked up feed and I had to reset it or something. But anytime I did a proper feed, I would expect at least 2,000-3,000, get as many as 30 at one point. But it was consistent. You could rely on it, and I knew it was fleeting. Thank you. I knew it wasn't long lasting. And so it wasn't shocking because it happens every time. Where's the gun?
One for all, Toga. I mean, one for all twice.
No.
Forgot what I was saying. Move, man. I don't know. The whole thing has gotten to this point where, you have to question everything. And it's so stupid, like Allah sees all and he will judge us all. Like, again, what a weird level of stupidity that they've programmed into an entire population. An entire population that is depraved, that isn't given the best of things and is really, really fucking weird and backwards and, ugly in a lot of ways. Like this whole idea that women should cover up their virtuous bodies and what the fuck are you talking? What are you talking about? Like, they're just people. Maybe if we stopped making such a big deal out of women's bodies, then they wouldn't be such a big deal that people commit crimes for them. But that they need to cover up their faces and their hair so nobody else can see them. And why? They're beautiful. They should be seen. Why wouldn't they be seen? Because you're fucking insecure? Like, there's just so much weird shit involved in all of the different cults. And then as soon as you start getting into like Wahhabi, because it could not be the same sect, right? It could be a different sect of Islam. As long as the thing is claiming Islam, then all of Islam supports it. So all of Islam is then guilty. Just like with friars. The friars, they claim, well, I don't partake in that particular ritual. Yeah, but you know it exists, right? You know it exists and you do nothing to stop it, right? So, yeah, you're just as bad. Like, Wahhabi Islam is the Islam that you're scared of. And it's crazy because that is Saudi Arabia's Islam. So you have president after president trying to negotiate deals with the worst representation of Islam, while then also telling you to be scared of Islam because, it's so theatrically stupid. Come over here.
I would have to eat this banana.
Yeah, come over here so you can eat over your plate. Muslim religion of tongue kissing. It's disgusting to think about. The fact that you believe that shit, that's the part that's just so crazy to me. Right? Like, you believe that you're saying that Muhammad is a thing, like a real thing. Muhammad existed. Muhammad did not exist. This is a fairy tale. This variation of the Abrahamic fairy tales was created and specifically designed by the friars to be exactly what it is. To be part of the buffer zone in between the center. Like, I always think of it like the Target logo, right? The center circle is the friars. Israel, that whole thing. The next circle is both Christian and Islam. And if you get center circle, you have to go through those two. And those two, the good guy switches every 100 years, at least according to the narrative. For one time, the Muslims are the good guys. For another time, the Christians are the good guys. And it switches, right? But this way, you always have this majority buffer zone. And then that outside circle, you get the Eastern religions and the Native American religions and shit like that happen to all be very peaceful. They're not real big conquerors. The Chinese aren't sending missionaries and representatives out all over the world and killing people who don't convert. Let's see. Don't think about it like that. You're while you are so right. Bro keeps saying the same shit over and over. Dude, why? Any original content? You wonder why the algo won't help you. Oh, so the algorithm is now deciding my content isn't worthy. Oh, the algorithm wants me to talk about different things. I had no idea. I didn't know that the computer was so finicky. Yeah, talking about the same shit over and over again. Jesus lives. Bro, there's missionaries in China. There's missionaries in China, this person just said. Because they didn't understand what I was saying. When I said it's interesting how the Chinese religions, don't have their own version of missionaries out there converting people by threat of death. Like, seriously? You don't understand what's happening here? Like, maybe you should go to a different feed, bud. This is a little too high level for you. It's not worth it because you say the same thing over and over, not content. Yeah, but you're here. And you're here to scold me on it. That's weird how that works. And the algorithm just happened to get mad at me the day after Charlie Kirk got shot. Because, that happening, I was talking about how Charlie Kirk had been shot. There wasn't this huge thing that people were talking about that was something different to talk about. Nah, that didn't happen. Nah, that algorithm just doesn't like that I say the same things. Now, the religious pages that say the same things over and over again, those are okay. Yep, gotcha, that's cool. Like all Asian believe in some magic dragon. Have you ever met an Asian that believes in Jesus? Bro, 1/3 of the world is Christianity. Oh, okay. Where'd you come up with that? Like, you have to love how this guy is doing the exact example of what I always talk about. That when people can't argue the point, they start making up their, like what I said. You know, they have to make up an argument that they can argue. And it's really, really silly how, you know, just kind of foolish they are. But they just, they this is what they do. And it's funny too how, like, even by your own statistics, 1/3. So if I was like, hey, you know, there's a 1/3 chance that this parachute is going to open. There's a 33% chance this parachute is going to open. Go ahead and jump out of this plane. Would you guys jump out of the plane knowing that the parachute had a 33% chance of opening? Or would you rather use the parachute that had a 66% chance of opening? If you had to pick one, you know, neither one was actually going to be 100%. But wouldn't you rather have the one that's 66%? But you don't like that kind of stuff. I get it. I get it. Oh, let's see. Why would it? Nobody wants repeated. Right. Again, Christianity isn't just repeating the same old shit over and over again, right? Nah. Gotcha. Bro, ask around. Chinese don't all have an official religion, dude. It's so funny to me that you can't understand what's being said. So you just like, you're like a fish floundering, just flopping around trying to get some air. You want us to respond to your content? Well, here it is. He made 1/3 like Jesus. What an evil person Op is. 1/3 would believe in Jesus, but he does not. He does a parachute analogy that makes no sense. Oh, well, I assume it doesn't make sense to you because you didn't understand what I was saying about the Chinese missionaries either, right? So I get that you're having a hard time understanding this. But it's actually a really, really great analogy because your everlasting salvation is probably even more important than the parachute that gets you there, right? So when you're picking which thing is not only going to decide your everlasting salvation and eternity in Foreverland, but also the foundations of who you are as a person, therefore what you discriminate against and what you support and all that other stuff, you would think you would probably want the thing that's, you know, that's more likely. And the thing that's going to be more likely is the thing that more people are going to gravitate towards. And I'm glad I have to explain this to you because maybe you do represent a larger portion of the viewership that is just really dumb and doesn't understand really basic things. You said there's no Chinese missionaries, but I know some. You lie. Yes. Yes, you know some Chinese missionaries now. Yes, you know some people out there that are trying to convert people to a Chinese way of looking at things under threat of death. Boy, that's convenient. Let me guess, you're on a submarine too. Like the other dumbass. I almost like don't want to engage you too much because it seems like if I start making the comment section look as dumb as they are, then the comment section gets shut off. Oh, look, you're like the WNBA of comment section. Oh, you're like the women's college basketball of comment section. Just lies. Dude, I know Chinese missionaries. Loser. Yep. Convenient. We engage all the time. Yeah, this is what I'm supposed to respond to this. Are you kidding me, dude? Come on. You have to do better. Understand, like, if that was the criteria, if that was the standard, that was the bar that people had to be for me to fucking respond to it, I would never get anywhere because it would just be a bunch of goo goo gaga coming on here saying the same fucking dumb, nuh-uh, well, nuh-uh, nuh-uh. You're so stupid. You don't know me. I'm here often checking on your mental health. Oh, here we go. Now we're in the mental health argument. Gee, I wonder who that is. Should I take my meds for my schizophrenia? Is that where we're going next?
Yes.
Yes. Take your meds, schizophrenia. You're, Y-O-U-R, doing great, this person says. We're dealing with a scholar here, folks. We're dealing with a scholar. I'm Guy, I'm dumb. There we go. There you go. You have what you need. So stupid. So stupid. Yeah, if I had like 150 viewers, then I could be like, look how censored I am. What are you doing?
I'm not watching women's basketball. You could suck eggs.
That's women's college basketball. Thank you very much. It's really good, though. The game is just as good. They deserve to be paid just as much as the men do. They're just as competitive. Oh, shit. We report you every day. Oh, you report me. Well, what does that say? That's what a coward does, right? That's how cowards work. 14 years ago with 9 subscribers. Like I say, they're adjusting what they're doing now. And then this one joined 14 years ago with 9 subscribers as well. Gosh, that's so weird. Isn't that weird? They're such cowards. Yeah. They're saying we can't debunk or override anything you say, so we try to get you in trouble. It's for your friar hating. Well, if I'm wrong, why don't you just convince me that I'm wrong? I didn't grow up thinking this. Why would I not be allowed to hate anybody? That seems strange, right? I should be allowed to hate anybody I want to. Are you going to tell me what food I'm not allowed to hate? Are you going to tell me I'm not allowed to hate certain movies and shit too? Oh, don't you know that's the sound of the man? Get back, working on the chain. Gang.
If you see this kitty,
Huh?
I've seen this kitty. If you see this kitty today, let me know.
Okay.
This stripy kitty.
Yep.
Outside.
Okay.
She's looking for him.
Okay.
You could just message her and let her know.
Okie dokie. What an interesting, like, these couple feeds are just interesting to me.
Oh, it's Black Friday.
It's
I think I'm going to mail you something. It's Black Friday.
probably a better idea.
I'm going to have to park all the way at 7 Mile if I go to Walmart.
Yeah. And it won't be as good either. A coward is someone who blocks people. Right. I shouldn't block people who admit to reporting me every day.
I just need to get him.
I should let them stay here.
Dad,
Yeah, bud. Okay.
No, we're not experimenting with
Let's see. Joined 2 years ago, has 1 subscriber. Right? Like, you're just basically admitting you do it too, so let's just get rid of you too. But, like, these are the defensive measures I have to take, right? This is what I have to do because they're so scared of me. Like, I just can't even imagine admitting that out loud. Like, I can't engage with you on what you talk about, so I'm just going to try to prevent it. Like, to think I'm just some random nobody with 8 viewers. Like, that I would be that important that it would matter to you to begin with is just strange. How would you happen upon my feed to begin with? Let alone it matters to you that much that you're so scared that 8 people might see it. Doesn't that seem backwards? How come these guys are never out there trolling their local newscasters, begging them to do the proper stories, investigate this, investigate that? You know, how come they're not trolling government officials doing the same shit? How come they're not, trolling, telling them, hey, there's this guy that's talking about all these things. Either he's right or he's wrong, but he's willing to engage. He represents what a lot of people think. Any of it. The only thing they ever seem to want to do is cry. Happy Thanksgiving. Sure. Tried to look up Thanksgiving yesterday. I ended up on some crazy rabbit hole because it's all just so crazy. Trying to look up any of it just ends up being crazy because it's so... Our history is so crudely manufactured and slapped together that it starts falling apart pretty quickly. I'm always shocked by how everything I seem to look up doesn't really stand up to any sort of scrutiny. So yesterday, actually, I want to continue this. So yesterday, I think we got to Canada, and it said, according to some historians, the first celebration of Thanksgiving in North America occurred during the 1578 voyage of Martin Frobisher from England in search of the Northwest Passage. Why did everybody think there was a Northwest Passage when there wasn't, even though old maps show it and we're not allowed to go there and all these other things? And yesterday we got stuck on New France. That's what it was. Antecedents for Thanksgiving in Canada are also sometimes traced to the French settlers who came to New France in the 17th century, who celebrated their successful harvest. Did you know that New France was, from Florida all the way up to the northern tip of Canada, from Virginia, there was a little sliver on the East Coast that wasn't part of it, but all the way into the Dakotas and shit. It was this huge swatch of land. Maybe a third of the land was considered New France for 200 plus years. I had never heard of that. I've been a history guy for a long time. I never heard of New France. The French settlers in the area typically had feasts at the end of their harvest season. They continued throughout the winter, even sharing food with the indigenous peoples of the area. All of this shit just doesn't fit the narrative I was told. I was told that Thanksgiving was specifically it was about the United States and the pilgrims having food with the Native Americans. That's what I was told Thanksgiving was. To find out, Thanksgiving has a much deeper meaning and religious connotations and all that. Like, it just doesn't, like, where the fuck did all this come from? As settlers arrived in Nova Scotia from New England after 1700, again, this just whole concept of Nova Scotia is fucking awful. It's so cold and remote, and I would imagine it was really difficult to build because the land is so fucking permafrost most of the time. And the crazy part is too, like, there's so much more of the world going on at this time. Africa, Asia, Australia, Russia, Tartaria, whatever. And we never hear about it. We only hear this very specific, like, European history that's just so strange. Leaves out so much of the narrative, like it just doesn't exist. As settlers arrived in Nova Scotia from New England after 1700, late autumn Thanksgiving celebrations became commonplace. New immigrants into the country, such as the Irish, Scottish, and Germans, also added their own traditions to the harvest celebrations. Most of the U.S. aspects of Thanksgiving, such as the turkey, were incorporated when United Empire loyalists began to flee from the United States during and after the American Revolution and settled in Canada. I mean, it's nowadays you end up like putting your modern day spin on it, and you don't think about like the logistics of things. How did they communicate with each other? What communication infrastructure did they have with these areas? How did they know to go to these areas? These are remote areas to this day, and people are and they were just, hop, skipping, and jumping. Because, back in the day when there were only so many 100,000 people, white Americans in the United States as a whole, you couldn't just like disappear. There was really significant tracking systems and monitoring systems and fingerprinting and all that shit back then. So you couldn't just be like, no, I'm not Jim Johnson, I'm John Jimson, right? Like it's just the narrative is that they were fleeing. They were fleeing empire. United Empire loyalists began to flee from the United States during and after the American Revolution and settled in Canada. In 1859, get the fuck out of here. Nobody would ever in their right mind have the option to do other things and move to the fucking coldest, snowiest regions in the world. Why would you do that? Most of your year is snowy and shitty. Yeah, it's pretty when it's not, but it's still cold. You're still wearing sleeves in the summertime. The government, in 1859, the government of the provinces of Canada declared a Thanksgiving Day in which all Canadians were asked to spend the holiday in public and solemn recognition of God's mercies. Separation of church and state, huh? On October 9th, 1879, Canada's Governor General, the Marquis of Lorne, declared November 6th as, quote, a day of general thanksgiving to Almighty God for the bountiful harvest with which Canada has been blessed. Where did he say this? And then somebody wrote this down in 1879, so that here I am, 150 some years, 160 some years later, reading it on Wikipedia. So it could have been quoted. Somebody was like, oh yeah, remember that October 9th, 1879, Marquis of Loam declared that November. Remember, and then he was like, a day of general thanksgiving to Almighty God for the bountiful harvest with which Canada was blessed. No. He didn't say that. He didn't say was blessed. He said has been blessed. Oh yeah, has been blessed. My bad. Got to get that quote right. The Canadian Parliament on January 31st, 1957, applied the same language to its proclamation for the modern holiday, a day of general thanksgiving to Almighty God for the bountiful harvest with which Canada has been blessed. It to be observed on the second Monday in October. Why would they do that? If it already existed, then why did they change the date? And if it had already existed for almost 100 years, why would they have changed the date? Jenny Augusta Brownscombs 1914 portrait, the first Thanksgiving at Plymouth, now on display at Pilgrim Hall Museum in Plymouth, Massachusetts. Right? Because she knew what it looked like. And of course, they're all kneeling and looking all weird and, that's the first Thanksgiving, just out and about. They're out in the middle of nowhere. They're all dressed like this. And nobody ever talks about how everybody back then dressed in these Shakespearean outfits. Here's her 1925 portrait, Thanksgiving at Plymouth, now on display at the National Museum of Women in the Arts in Washington, D.C. So here she was like, you know what? I'm going to paint it again. Still going to have the woman kneeling down on this side of the painting and everybody doing this, but now we're going to throw the little building in there. And 9 years later, she was like, I'm going to paint it from a different viewpoint. But it's the same thing. It's really fucking strange, and I don't think people are asking the right question. Again, when you see anything that depicts what life was like back in the day, they're dressed like they're Shakespearean actors. And you can say then, oh, well, those were the styles of the day. Okay, so where did they get such extravagant clothing with so many layers? They're always dressed like it's like 30 degrees outside. Every single portrait, everything you ever see makes it look like it's fucking cold outside. People have on long pants and dress coats and top hats, and the women have these huge dresses on and these corsets and these, overcoats, and they're walking with their lace umbrellas and shit. People are even when they go to the beach, they have on long sleeves. And you can say, oh, it's modesty. Oh, it's modesty. Modesty doesn't trump fucking health. If you were to wear that kind of clothing, multiple layers of clothing, heavy as fuck clothing, especially with those materials they used back then, lots of wool. These aren't the most breathable things. And it's 90 degrees with 90% humidity, and you're out walking around town, you're going to die. Right? Why does everything depict the late 18s, well, the early 19s and earlier as being much colder than it seems? And then, on the other side of that, you'll get the toga generation, where it couldn't be cold if you had one of those fucking things on. So now we switch to the United States. An annual Thanksgiving holiday tradition in the North American colonies is documented for the first time in 1619 in what is now called the Commonwealth of Virginia. 38 English settlers aboard the ship Margaret arrived by way of the James River at Berkeley Hundred in Charles City County, Virginia on December 4th, 1619. Okay, they arrived. I think people are like, if we're not much more advanced at this time than we today have been led to believe, so much of this shit just doesn't quite make sense. How would they have done this? How would they have done that? What infrastructure was set up for them? 1619, they arrive in this area. They just park their boat and set up their feast. The landing was immediately followed by a religious celebration, specifically dictated by the group, the group's charter from the London Company. The charter declared, quote, that the day of our ship's arrival at the place assigned for plantation in the land of Virginia shall be yearly and perpetually kept holy as a day of thanksgiving to Almighty God. That is so fucking weird. Really ruins the Thanksgiving aspect of it for me. What ends up being one of my favorite holidays, or at least used to be, is now, tainted. The charter declared that, since the mid 20th century, the original celebration has been commemorated there annually at present day Berkeley Plantation, ancestral home of the Harrison family of Virginia. It's the Berkeley, not Berkeley, Berkeley. The Berkeley Plantation, one of the first plantations in America, comprises about 1,000 acres on the banks of the James River in Charles County, Virginia. Berkeley Plantation was originally called Berkeley Hundred, Berkeley Hundred, named after the Berkeley Company of England. In 1726, it became the home of the Harrison family of Virginia, after Benjamin Harrison IV located there and built one of the first 3-story brick mansions in Virginia. He just built it. He built the kilns to then build the bricks, to make the bricks, because one of those things that always gets overlooked is they'll just say things like, oh, they built this brick house, or they built these brick buildings, or this brick factory, or whatever. And they never tell you where the bricks came from. Who made the bricks? It is the ancestral home of 2 presidents of the United States, William Henry Harrison, who was born there in 1773, and grandson Benjamin Harrison, who I didn't know Benjamin Harrison was a president. It is now a museum property open to the public, as so many are. House from the South. He just built that, because he had the architectural capabilities to do that. As well as everything else, he also knew how to build brick kilns and brick factories to then provide how many bricks do you think this house took? How many fucking bricks do you think that is? Let's see what the construction says. Let's see what the history says. History. The Berkeley 100 was created through a land grant in 1618, because we had such a fantastic national government set up by the 1616s, or the 1618s, of the Virginia Company of London to Sir William Throckmorton, Sir George Yeardley, George Thorpe, Richard Beverley, and John Smith, or Smythe, 1567 to 1641. I guess, is that his life? The rest of them don't get a date. Of Nibley a parish of the Hundred of Berkeley in Gloucestershire. Smith was also the historian of the Berkeley group, collecting over 60 documents relating to the settlement of Virginia between 1613 and 1634, which have survived to modern times. It consists of about 8,000 acres on the north bank of the James River near Herring Creek, in the area then known as Charles City? I don't know. Cittie. It was named for one of the original founders, Richard Berkeley, a member of the Berkeley family of Gloucestershire, England. It was about 20 miles upstream from Jamestown, where the first permanent settlement of the colony of Virginia was established on May 16th, 1607. The Berkeley Hundred was the next plantation down the river from the Shirley plantation. Surely you have to be joking me. What's up, open-minded? In 1619, the ship Margaret of Bristol, England, sailed for Virginia under Captain John Woodliffe, and brought 38 settlers to the new town of Hundred of Berkeley, or to the new town and Hundred of Berkeley. 38 settlers to the new town and Hundred of Berkeley. The Margaret landed her passengers at Berkeley Hundred on December 4th, 1619. The group's London company charter required that day of arrival be observed as a day of thanksgiving to God. On the first day, Captain John Woodliffe, now it's spelled differently, held a service pursuant to the charter, which specified, we, W-E-E, ordained that the day of our ship's arrival at the place assigned for Plantacon, it's Plantacon, in the land of Virginia, shall be yearly and perpetually kept holy as a day of thanksgiving to Almighty God. Because of this, the Berkeley plantation had one of the first recorded celebrations of Thanksgiving in the United States, establishing a tradition 2 years and 17 days before the Pilgrims arrived aboard the Mayflower at Plymouth, Massachusetts, to establish their Thanksgiving Day in 1621. Who knew that? That's pretty interesting. It's interesting that I've never heard anything like this before. Here we have one of these random photographs, because again, they love to say that they couldn't take photographs of any war scenes, but you get tons of these, right? Colonels Albert V. Coburn, Delos B. Sackett, and General John Sedgwick in Harrison's Landing, Virginia during the Peninsula Campaign, 1862. You know, they're just hanging out in their director's chairs. Why do they have director's chairs underneath them? And who are these ghostly figures in the background? You know, these setup shots that you see all the time, they just look so goofy. Man, this history is extensive. Trying to find, like, okay, here we go. In 1636, William Tucker, Maurice Thompson, George Thompson, William Harris, Thomas Deacon, James Stone, Cornelius Lloyd of London merchants, and Cornelius Lloyd of London. So that's Lloyds of London. That's a pretty big group there. And Jeremiah Blackman of London, Mariner and their associates and company patented the 8,000 acres known as Berkeley Hundred. After several decades, the site of Berkeley 100 became the property of Theodoric Bland of Westover. A portion of the Berkeley 100 patent was purchased from the descendant Giles Bland by Benjamin Harrison III, the son of Benjamin Harrison IV. Oh, sorry. I was about to say what? His son, Benjamin Harrison IV, built the three-story brick mansion that became the seat of the Harrison family, one of the first families of Virginia. Using bricks fired on the Berkeley plantation, Benjamin Harrison IV built a Gregorian-style two-story brick mansion on a hill overlooking the James River in 1626. He built it all in 1 year? I just, so first you have to build your basic kiln so that you can fire the bricks to be able to build a proper kiln. Then you have to have a kiln. Now, kilns back then, they didn't have like they do now, where they have a steady stream of gases running into them to keep them maintaining this extremely high heat, right? Back then, you needed a fuel supply, a steady supply of dry, usable burning materials that you can turn into coal. Because, like, you have to turn it into the briquettes that burn. They're not just there. And then there's the other thing, I forget what it's called, but there's another process by which they make, like, I don't know how. But so you have to maintain a very high temperature, meaning the fire has to be fed a lot, a lot. And also, bricks require a lot of materials to make. You don't just make bricks by forming mud in a shape, letting it dry in the sun, and then firing it. You have to mix that in. There's ingredients that go into that mixture that matter. And especially when you're talking about bricks that still exist to this day. Like these buildings here. Gotta love that shit, huh? Who built all that? You would think it would require a specific skill set, at the very least, just to be the brick maker. But to not only be the brick maker, but then architect, designing a house that is a huge mansion that has interiors such as this with the arches and the giant fireplaces and all these different things, these huge vaulted ceilings and marble everywhere, and just the lap of luxury. Where did it all come from? Multiple different types of marble from all over the world. Where did that shit come from? Like think about what you're being presented with. The narrative you're being presented with is is one that, just like with so much of what we're told, one that requires faith. Faith. You have to have faith in a narrative that, if you actually start breaking it down, it doesn't quite stand up to what you think or how you think things work or did work. And this is how this works, whether you're purposefully or accidentally, like I am right now, talking about Berkeley fucking plantation. I had no idea what Berkeley plantation was until now. But to just think about like the narrative you're given, right? It's sort of ridiculous. Harrison's son, overlooking the hill, he built it in 17. He built this whole thing in a year. His son, Benjamin Harrison V, a signer of the United States Declaration of Independence and governor of Virginia, was born at Berkeley Plantation and was the son of William Henry Harrison, a war hero in the Battle of Tippecanoe, governor of Indiana. Like, this isn't so that's just it. When you want to know the history of the actual building, you don't get that. You just get a bunch of names thrown at you and this bullshit. By the time Benjamin the Seventh inherited Berkeley and the land, shut up, man. Ooh. Happy Thanksgiving. Oh man, this sucks. I don't have to tell them, they know. The land was worn out after more than 2 centuries of monoculture tobacco and cotton crops, and the plantation was drifting towards financial ruin. After 150 years of Harrison family ownership, plantation was foreclosed on, by a local bank, and the family evicted. Benjamin Harrison VII was the last Harrison to own Berkeley. During the American Civil War, Union troops occupied Berkeley Plantation, and President Abraham Lincoln twice visited there in the summer of 1862 to confer with General George B. McClellan. The Harrisons were unable to regain possession of the plantation after the war, and it was rented out by the bank for some time rented out by the bank from time to tenants, farmers, and the mansion was eventually used as a barn, falling into such disrepair that it was uninhabitable. Also in 1862, amid fighting in the Civil War, the area was the scene of the creation of the first bungle rendition of the first bugle rendition of present-day taps. Man, that was the first time taps was ever played. John Jameson, a lumber tycoon who, I can't see it yet. I can't see the date, but I'm going to say it's the 1880s. Who as a youth had been at Berkeley as a drummer boy in the McClellan's army, purchased the property in 1907. I was wrong. In 1925, his son Malcolm inherited the property, expending large sums of money to turn the ruined main house into a livable and stately home for himself and his bride Grace Eggleston. The project took over a decade, and the mansion was finally occupied by the Jamesons in the ground floor of the mansion was turned into a museum in the 1960s. So 22 years? Today, the house attracts visitors from the United States and other parts of the world. The architecture is original, and the house has been filled with antique furniture and furnishings that date from the period when it was built. I'm about to come down. The grounds, too, have been restored, and cuttings from the boxwood gardens are available as living souvenirs from it for its visitors. Berkeley is still a working farm. Corn, soybeans, wheat, tomatoes, and other vegetables grow there. There is also a small family cemetery on the property. Among those buried there are Benjamin Harrison V, Grace Jameson, and Malcolm Jameson. Reconstructed slave quarters were built on the property in 2018 by the producers of Harriet, a movie about Harriet Tubman that was filmed in part at the plantation. The original quarters no longer extant at that point. Plantation owner Benjamin Harrison V held 110 people in slavery at the time of his death in 1791. That is a strange one. So they throw that in there. It's the original, actually, architecture. So if it's the original architecture, and it took over a decade to renovate it, but it took a year to build it. I love all those narratives they give us. Anyway, there's nobody talking anyway, so what the fuck do I care? We got ourselves distracted as fuck talking about Thanksgiving. And literally you look at it and you go, wait, what? That's weird. There's so many weird little bits. Like somebody built an entire mansion out of bricks in a year. So and it works out that way. And of course it's built out of check out the links in the description. Guess they want me off anyway. Check out the links in the description. It explains everything. It's the why. It's the why behind all of it. Why do we live in such a crazy time with such crazy shit always happening in this crazy ass group that treats people in such a horrible way? How could they possibly treat people in that way? Bottom of Darkness explains it. So go check this shit out. Have yourself a wonderful day. And as always, most important than anything else is pedophiles. Please, 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 pedophiles, kill yourself. Quickly, 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 quickly.